believer that this team's going to win the national championship.
Something stupid is coming out of his mouth.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name.
Let's talk about something good about Justin Freck.
What are you doing? Season of dreams. Ohio State, my guys, are either the best or the second best program in the history of college football.
This guy is a bonehead. They love him.
I question your judgment as an adult. I really do.
I was a total hater. I know that for a fact, and I just don't get it.
Get us back our sleeves.
Let's say, bring me that. That's the one I want. And welcome into the Juck Bucks post-game show, the game edition. Michigan wins. A great game for college football fans around the country. I'm sure they were all really enjoying their time today. Certainly they were enjoying their time up north. I was not enjoying my time, and I'm guessing most of the folks watching today were not either. Not what we expected, that's for sure. Buckeyes come in as 20-point favorites. The line opened as 24-point favorites, and this was, I believe, I've been checking, but I believe the biggest loss, the biggest favorite in this rivalry to have lost the game. 24, I think, was for sure, but it did come down to 20 there at the end. Inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. Usually I start off recapping the game, and I'm not so sure if that's what we want to do right now. I apologize for the delay. I wanted to listen to Ryan Day's post game first, see if maybe we could get some answers and talk about those answers. There was no answers. He looked like you would expect him to look, absolutely shell-shocked, and he failed on every possible level today. I talked earlier in the week about growing up in the Cooper era, from 9 years old to the time I was 22 years old. John Cooper was the coach of the Buckeyes. And I'll be damned if it didn't feel like this, man. All week, I sat here and said, look, I'm trying to manufacture some kind of nerves for this game because it hurts so much more when you're not nervous and you don't feel like you're like you might lose, you know? I had no fear at all. Even this morning, even in the first quarter, things weren't looking so hot. I just didn't feel there was any way that this could possibly be an even game, but it sure was, man. It sure was. We're talking 234 total yards of offense for Blue, 252 for Ohio State. Even with Davis Warren, just 9 of 16 for 62 yards. You lost to a team with a quarterback that threw for 62 yards. Khalil Mullings, he was a beast, and no play bigger than his 27-yarder at the end there to put them in the field goal range. Ty Hamilton had him in his grasp. It would have been a tough play. It would have been a good play. He didn't make the play. Will Howard, 19 of 33 for 175, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and they were absolutely killer. Well, I take that back. The first one, Caleb Downs ends up picking Davis Warren right back. We'll go through that when we recap the game, but just disgusting. Props to Blue, man. Props to them. My gosh, did they bring it? I thought Gus was maybe a little over complimentary of Sharon Moore. They didn't do anything special, but they definitely outcoached Ohio State today. And when you've got a talent advantage like that, you don't take advantage of it. I mean, the thing was, when we look at past losses in this game, as we hit 4 in a row now, this game, I felt like the guys played so much more physical than they had in the past. I felt like everybody really brought it. A couple of guys that stand out to me, Arvell Reese, my gosh, he was fantastic today. Matter of fact, at halftime, he led the team in tackles. I'd like to check where he is now or how he finished that. But Caleb Downs ends up leading the team in tackles with 11 tackles. Fantastic game by him. Lathan played really good. Cody played good. But Arvell was just flashing all over the place. This is painful. You know what I mean? This is painful, and I'm sure we'll get some friends in the chat to rub it in a little bit. And I came into this season talking about Ryan Day, and a lot of people said at the beginning of the year, if he loses this game again, he's got to go. Absolutely got to go. And I'm sure that's the reaction a lot of people are going to have today. I want to just throw this up here because I think this is absolutely spot on. A lot of people are going to be feeling like that today. And my reasoning for saying, no, that's not the case. If you happen to lose this game this year, then, and remember, this is preseason, I'm saying what he's done to change the program, what he's done in the offseason, the changes that he's made, the philosophical changes that he's made, have made me give him a buy-in, right, for 2 years. I wanted to give him 2 years because he gave up play calling. That was difficult to do. Hired Chip. That was the perfect fit. Of course, the recruiting's been fantastic, but maybe a little bit of a philosophical change, bringing in Julian Sayin on top of Aaron Nolan. That's something he never would have done before. Playing it a little more cutthroat, a little more, you hate to say SEC style, but it's the truth. So 2 years of buy-in for me. That's what I said. But that was before Michigan came out and put together what they've put together this year. I mean, that's a very average football team. It's a very average football team that came in at 6-5. If you take away the cream puffs on their schedule, that's less than a 500 team. And they just came in and beat you again in the horseshoe. And we've got to go through another year, an entire year of listening to them chirp, man. I don't want to be Mr. Knee-jerk guy. I'm happy that I didn't come on here immediately after the game, or, I gave it a chance to chill. I know that there is a whole lot to criticize Ryan Day about. I know there is. But it's all still out in front of them theoretically, right? I mean, we know what's gone now. There's no Big Ten championship game. We're not going to be able to play in that. There's no home playoff game. They're certainly going to be outside of that range. Still will make the playoff, but you're going to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs, which means it's going to be one hell of an exciting matchup. Blue's been telling us forever that Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. Like, I have pushed back on that. I've absolutely pushed back on that. It seems pretty apparent at this point. He does have a Michigan problem. He's played other big games a hell of a lot better than he's played against them. But just a disgusting day. My man Mello, thank you so much for the super chats. He's loading me up here. Let's see what Mello's got to say. Oh, yeah, he's heated. Ryan Day's got to go. Chip's got to go. Ryan Day is gone. Trust me, he's not Ross's guy. They better hire Saban, or this team will have the biggest portal exodus ever. Watch if you don't believe me. So Mello not choosing to try to take this slowly. He's jumping straight to the point. Look, Mello, I'm with you, bro. Like, I'm feeling the same way. I absolutely am. I'm just trying to keep my cool right here while I'm on the air, because I feel like if I come out and I don't want to come on the show tomorrow and say, all right, everything I said yesterday was just me being mad, because I've done that before and I felt like an idiot. But my initial feelings are, yes, we looked at what happened when Saban retired. To the people who say, if Ryan Day is fired, you're going to lose everybody in the class, everybody's going to transfer. I want you to understand, Nick Saban retired. The Buckeyes got Caleb Downs. They got a great center in Seth McLaughlin. They got Julian Sayin. Florida State got a bunch of great players. Alabama walked into this season with Kalen DeBoer in year one with the number one talent composite. So, they did just fine as far as it goes from a talent perspective, when we talk about if you lose Ryan Day, everybody's going to leave. Ryan Day is a good coach. There's no doubt about it. We'll see at the end of this year if he's able to rebound from this. But my gosh, man, coming from somebody, like I said, who grew up during the Cooper era, it just feels exactly like it. Great teams, great players, better than our rival, and embarrassing losses. I don't think Cooper ever lost as a 24-point favorite. I'm positive of it, actually. But it's despicable. It's despicable. I don't know how he answers for it. I watched him at the press conference again. I'm sorry about the delay, but absolutely unacceptable. They're unacceptable. My buddy Dave, this is rock bottom. And the Duck Knight, one of our Buckeye friends, says Day is soft. You know, you look at the end of the damn game with the fight there. And by the way, to go to Khalil Mullings after the fight, after they tried to plant the flag, and to just let him sit there and parrot that it was Ohio State not knowing how to lose, as if that's what started the fight, that was some garbage right there. We all know why it started. You tried to be disrespectful and plant the flag, and then Klatt tries to stand up for it. Well, that's what it is. Baker Mayfield do it as if that makes it like, oh, if you win in Columbus, that's just what you do, and they're supposed to accept it. Nah, man. And to be honest, part of me would have normally said in that situation, had the Buckeyes lost, like, I don't even want to see you fight for it. You deserve to get the flag planted because you got pushed around in your own stadium and you lost. But to be honest with you, I feel like this was so much a coaching game. This was so much coaching errors. I actually feel quite proud of a lot of those guys on the team, the way they played. I don't feel like this was one of those games where I come out thinking like, this guy played like a punk and this guy played like a, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of our guys played really, really good. They had fire. They had juice. To me, this was a total coaching issue. It really was. That's the way I see it. This is not a game where I feel like you got whooped around, beat up. It's just not one of those games. We've had those. Jimmy, what's going on, man? Jimmy, tough one today. Still going to be a dangerous matchup in the playoff. That's coming from a Penn State fan. Yeah, tough one indeed. And, you know, I know a lot of people don't want to see Ohio State in the playoffs. Certainly doesn't feel like that today. Yeah, I know, guys. It's I want to, I do, but at the same time, I know that our friends up north would love to just hear us implode. You know what I mean? They already got their win today. I don't want to give them another. But it's definitely clear, like Ryan Day has a Michigan problem, man. This feels like Cooper. And whatever your opinion is on the cheating, you know, this is unacceptable. This is Ross Bjork is, and again, like Mello said, Day's not his guy, but he sure did walk into a Cadillac of a football program running on all cylinders. I mean, the Ohio State football program is excellent. You can get a whole lot of coaches to come and take that job. When you look at Ryan Day, this is a guy who, let's be honest, there was no coaching search. He was the guy that was there that they decided to give the job to. We don't know if somebody else in that position or if somebody else was hired after Urban would have done the same job he's done. We don't. So anybody who just wants to say he's been great, blah, 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 like he's not some special guy. He's not some special coach. He had no special coaching track record. He was the guy that was there. He was the next in line. It's just the way it went. There was no coaching search. There were no other interviews, and he's done a damn good job. He has. But this, not acceptable. Seemed like Ryan was calling all plays all game except the 2-minute drill right before halftime. The Buckeyes pick up tempo. It was the best they looked all day on offense. Fantastic. They looked great, and they never went back to it. He was asked about it in the post-game press conference. Essentially, why didn't you go back to it? And he tried to say, look, I've talked forever about how this guy spins when he's asked a direct question, will not answer a direct question directly. He certainly didn't answer that one directly, but something to the effect of, hang on, I just got a text message I want to read you. Just talked to someone who was 10 feet from the doctors, talking to Will. 3 doctors told him he was done and to give them his helmet. He talked his way out of it. They let the kid run into the teeth of the defense while he was concussed. Zero blame on Will. Someone needs to get fired for allowing that to happen. Now, interesting, I got a text from someone else right after Will went out that said, I can't believe he's out there. He's wobbly. In the next play, when he came in after that concussion, he ran the ball. It was like a 6-yard gain. He is tough as nails. He's tough as nails. I respect the hell out of him, but he's 0-1. Matthew K., thank you for the super chat. Matt says, run the damn ball to the field and not to the boundary. We had so many questionable play calls today. It was just disgusting. We saw something that we hadn't seen yet also in Carson Hinsman. We saw some snapping issues, right? That was on our list of 10 things to watch for the Indiana game. I didn't put it on the list this week because it had gone so good. We saw the Buckeyes down about the 20-yard line, and on a third down, Hinsman snaps the ball as though Will's under center, and he's in shotgun. I have no idea how that happens. I've played center. You can feel those warm hands up on your stuff. Okay, I got no idea how that happens. I don't know that I've ever seen that. That was something, and that ball just laying on the ground. Was that the play that might not have been the play that happened? That might have been one where it was just a bad snap, and he had to go down to his feet and grab it. But you had JJ up on the left, one-on-one, and because the timing was off, he ends up throwing it over to Carnell over his head over here on the short side of the field. But missed opportunity there. Jaden Fielding, my gosh, man, 38 and 34 yards when the guy on the other side pounds a 54-yarder. Absolutely pathetic. And my buddy Ron, who comes on here and joins me often, is always talking about the field goal kicking and how it's just totally unacceptable that they cannot get a solid field goal kicker that we can count on when you need it most. And when do you need it most? Well, obviously in this game, you're talking about sub 40-yard field goals, and you missed 2. Despicable performance. This is the same guy that missed. Never mind. He didn't miss 3 this year. It's just despicable. You can't have that in a game like this. But let's be honest. This game wasn't supposed to be a game that was going to be decided by field goals. This Ohio State offense scored 10 points, dude. 10 points. Are you kidding me? They didn't have Will Johnson. It's not for failure of passing the ball. I mean, they passed the ball 33 times. 26 rushing attempts, 33 passes. That's usually a good recipe for them. 59 plays. That's 3-4 plays under their average. Michigan did a good job of eating up clock. Buckeyes had 1 possession in the first quarter. Just 1 possession the entire first quarter. They did a good job. They did a good job executing their game plan. It certainly was not brilliant. They did exactly what we knew they would do. How did the Buckeyes only manage 10 points with those playmakers at home? It's wild. It really is, man. It's really wild. Carnell led the team in targets. I think he had 10 targets. JJ had, 7 targets? Let me check JJ's targets. My number for the playoffs I'm considering this the playoff season. 7 targets for JJ minimum. Anything less, you have failed as a coaching staff today. 7 targets. So he was right on it. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 35 yards, and a touchdown. But let's keep in mind those 2 huge pass interference calls. Those are massive. The kid saved a touchdown. JJ scores a touchdown on that PI that got called. And he ended up holding the Buckeyes to 3 on that possession. So great play by that kid. But we had, after the one that got called, the second one, no, it was that one. It was that first one. Emeka on 3rd down got bear hugged. That one did not get called. And that's when they converted, the Buckeyes converted their lone field goal. But on that series, which was, I believe, the first series of the second quarter, Ohio State had 3 carries for 5 yards. And that was pretty much an indication of what was going to come out of that running game. Obviously, I don't like to blast the offensive line until I watch the all 22, look at the end zone view. But, man, they had no push at all. And Ryan Day talked about it in the post game about the offensive line and said that the mishmash and moving guys around reared its head today. Well, they're going to face defensive fronts like that if they got a chance at winning moving forward in the playoffs. That's the best one they've faced. I just talking to Dylan before the game earlier in the week. It's like, if Ohio State goes on in the playoffs, how are we going to feel if they have lost this game? Can you even feel excited about that? I sure don't today. I'll tell you that. Our buddy Richie says, Will Howard was worse than mid today. He literally lost the game. Can we cut him some slack a little bit for coming back in after the concussion? I'll tell you what, guys, when he got out, first off, that hit, by the way, I think that's a clean hit. I know some people were calling for targeting. I thought that was a clean, great football hit. I don't play it both ways with the targeting thing. I want less targeting, not more. I certainly don't root for it. And yes, we've seen lesser hits called targeting than that. But I'm certainly not going to be someone who roots for a targeting call unless somebody really gets smacked in the head. And I didn't think he did. So Will gets knocked out of the game, goes out. Well, first off, he was on the ground for quite a while. And Gus Johnson said, Will gets up slowly. He was still laying on the ground. So they go to commercial. He was still on the ground. And when they finally, when he's finally able to get up, he goes and they take his helmet and they put him in the tent. Now, generally when that happens, you're not coming back in the game. And we see Devin Brown come in. It's 4th down. The Buckeyes still go for it. And I'm just thinking, this is set up for Devin Brown to become a legend. Everything he's been through, right? Losing the battle to Kyle McCord, losing the second. Well, he was going to come in for McCord last year, but then he got hurt again, hurt his ankle. He was probably going to replace McCord around the Wisconsin game last year and gets hurt, so he doesn't get that opportunity. Then he stays through the transfer when everybody thought he was going to leave, loses the fake quarterback battle this offseason to Will Howard. And he's been a great teammate. And now he gets the opportunity to come in against Michigan. That was set up to be an amazing story, but he was only in for one play and they brought Will Howard back in. And like I said, reports were Will Howard was wobbly. And then another one that he was arguing with the doctors. So I don't know. But yeah, we can certainly kick the Will Howard Heisman conversation out, right? Not good enough. Not good enough in the biggest game of the year. You were 19 for 33. And the interceptions were bad interceptions, really bad. Richie says his decision-making was awful. It really was. And I have not, Joe says 7 or 8 seed. I've not even gone through. I guess we could pull that up and take a look, guys, if we want to. I've not paid attention to any of the other games today because I don't do that when the Buckeyes are playing. But this is the committee rank for this week. Bucks were at 2. I think, did Tennessee win? I assume they did. What's the score? Tennessee. I wasn't even watching the score. I was totally in on our game. So where do you drop them? You still got Notre Dame playing. You got Miami playing right now. They're up 14-0 on Syracuse. Notre Dame plays SC tonight. The Bucks at 10-2, still haven't beaten 2 top 5 teams. They're going to be above Tennessee. Are they still going to be ahead of Georgia after Georgia pulls that out last night? That game against Georgia Tech, which was just unbelievable. Georgia Tech outplayed Georgia in every facet of the game. It goes to 7 or 8 overtimes. Georgia pulls it out. I would say they're either right ahead of Georgia or right behind Georgia, which is interesting because we're talking about potentially, I guess they still might find their way into a home playoff game, actually, now that I think about it. But we're not going to the Big Ten championship. So I've got a hotel booked for that game. I wonder, should I still go watch the Ducks? I don't know. Maybe I will. B-Man says, who runs the ball on 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 10? And there was quite a bit of that, man. It was really just almost felt like give-up plays. This was Chip Kelly's worst game. There's no doubt about it. Wasn't even close. Worst game he's called for us. He seemed to turtle up. It was almost like he was feeling that Ryan Day pucker. You know what I mean? But the Michigan defense played really good. I mean, props to them. I'll tell you what, before the game, I saw them in the end zone on the Fox Big Noon kickoff, and they showed with the fullback, Bredesen, I love that guy. That's a football player. And he was just firing them up, man, going nuts. And that was the first time all week that I thought, okay, these dudes got some juice, man. They're really coming to bring it. And they did. Speaking of that Bredesen kid, I said all week, like, Ohio State's not going to lose to this team, but if they do, it'll be because they beat themselves. And when we look at all the plays that they potentially made that would have beat themselves, you've got quite a few. You got 2 missed field goals inside 40. You got 2 interceptions. You've got Sonny Styles made a horrific play against that kid, Bredesen. He had contain, and he got in a little tough guy competition with Bredesen, and let Orji run right around him because he went to knock up with him again twice, and didn't even see Orji just floating right by him for a 29-yarder. Which, by the way, when Davis Warren ran out for that 10-yard scramble, I feel like he's just as fast as Orji. Orji's not that fast, but he got him to 29 yards on that one. And that was, set them up for one of their field goals. So that was on Sonny. That was a horrific play. The punt, we had a 31-yard punt, gave it to Michigan inside our 50. I think they were at the 40. That resulted in their other field goal. So both of those plays directly resulted in points for them. And those, along with the other missed plays, that's six plays that resulted in really bad outcomes aside from one of Will's interceptions. By the way, like, if Davis Warren lofts that ball over Jack's head, that's a touchdown. Like, he just didn't see Jack. Props to Jack for catching the ball. I'm really happy for him. It's not like that was some spectacular play. He was dropping back into coverage. The dude didn't see him. William says fielding is absolutely terrible. He's really not been bad this year. I'm stunned. And Brad says hubris to not get the Groza Award winner who was kicking at Miami, Ohio. And I made a big stink about this and got a lot of people who busted my chops and said, we got fielding. We do. Alabama came up into the state of Ohio and got this kid from Miami to transfer down there. And we got fielding. We absolutely do. My buddy Brandingo says, I'm out on Day. I've been a Day supporter since he came in. Is this the first time that you've turned? Or have you been on the fence recently, or have you been out for a while? And will you still feel like this next week? Will you still feel like this if he wins in the first round, if they go down to Neyland Stadium and beat Tennessee? You know what I mean? That's why I don't want to make concrete statements today when we still got big games to be played this year, right? But I get what you're saying. $20 million roster with a 10-cent kicker. Ryan Hobbs says, I need to find a new team till Ryan Day is gone. I can't defend this guy anymore. So I feel similar to Ryan, where I'm someone who's not I'm very critical of him, but I've defended him against the people who said he needs to be fired if he loses this game to Michigan. I've defended him against that kind of talk, and I did it all off season, and I did it for the majority of this season until we realized just how bad this Michigan team was. This is a team that I thought would go 8-4 this year, potentially 9-3. I did not think they would enter the game at 6-5. And we've seen them look absolutely terrible against quite a few teams this year. There was no excuse for today. No excuse. But I'll tell you, oh, by the way, without Will Johnson and Colston Loveland, their best offensive weapon, can you imagine if they had him? My gosh. Blue Wolverine, the stats truly go out the window for the game. Yes, they do, my man. Yes, they do. BC, thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. Patriot games. Who is more to blame for me, Day or Kelly? This is always going to be come down to the head coach. This is Kelly's first game. Kelly had a terrible game, but you're the boss, right? You know, you approved the game plan. You got the opportunity to tell him to change things up. You didn't find the right mix. You didn't go back to tempo. You did everything wrong again. I mean, it's just inexcusable. You're the head coach. Buck stops with you. Terrible. Arkbuck says, let Urban be temporary coach for the playoffs. Hire a new coach that will let Knowles stay. R. Smith says, Ohio has another soft loss. I don't really think that was. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you about a couple of the losses in this, in the last, of the last four have been soft. I don't think this one was at all. I thought they played really hard football. And, props to you guys. You won the game. I give it to you. They played good. No doubt about it. But let's call it honest. The Buckeyes did not play a soft game. Vestige says Super Saiyan should have come in. Man, that would not have been good. Doctor's job to take the helmet. It is. It is the doctor's job to take the helmet. I'll be curious to know if we hear any more about that. My buddy Brad's sick to his stomach. By the way, that was I forgot to mention the after the game plant the flag fight that went on forever. That was 2, right? Forgot to bring up that the one where JJ was going out of bounds and he got brought down maybe a little late, got up, started scrapping a little bit. And you had one of the Michigan assistant coaches got a flag on him. I don't know exactly what he did. I'll have to go back and watch that. Did anybody see what the Michigan assistant coach did to get called for a unsportsmanlike or cute? They called Quinshawn. They called Quinshawn and one of the Michigan assistant coaches for unsportsmanlike on that first little scuffle. And I did not see what he did at all. Either one of them. So 2 scuffles today. And that first one, it's like, whatever. You like to see that. You know what I mean? That one was cool. no harm, no foul. The one at the end of the game, that was a little too much. That went on a little too much. By the way, the shot of all the adults in there trying to break that thing up, which why aren't you just getting your guys off the field? Get them off the field. It looked like they all wanted to just stand out there. Everybody go off the field. Neither of them wanted to leave first. And I can get it from Ohio State's point of view. They didn't want to walk off the field first and have them out there celebrating on their field. If you're the Michigan coaches, just get your guys off the field. That's but they did have a shot. Everybody was trying to break that thing up. And it's just a shot of Ryan Day just looking totally shell-shocked off to the side. He certainly wasn't in there trying to get his guys away from the scrap, which, I don't like. I would have liked to see him take control of that. He's the head coach. JJ's touchdown was absolutely fantastic. 190-pounder came up and tried to jam him at the line. JJ knocked him on his keister. That was pretty fun to watch. The Ohio State defense held Michigan to 113 yards in the first half. Ohio State had 155. But the Buckeyes just 36 yards rushing at halftime. Terrible effort rushing. Just terrible. At halftime, how are you guys feeling? I mean, I certainly felt like they were in position to, things felt like they were going good. You had the good drive at the end of the first half. There was no part of me that felt like we were going to lose the game. The only thing was, how close is this going to be? Are people still going to be calling for Ryan Day's job because he only lost the game by 10 points? That's how I was feeling at halftime. Definitely did not think that this would end up like that. Pardon me, guys. Let me get rid of a couple of these idiots. I don't mind if you're a fan of the other fan base and you want to come in and have some fun, but, keep it classy. Kenneth says, did Ohio State decide to throw this game in order to not play the Big Ten championship game? That's a theory. That's a theory, but you would only want to do that to get the 5 seed. And they're not going to get that 5 seed now, right? Dan says unforced errors killed Ohio State today. They did. We just went over in the 2 missed field goals, 2 interceptions, Sonny losing contain, the poor punt, the 31-yard punt. Like there's 6 plays right there that changed the game. Eric, you got it, buddy. You got to come and face the music. I'm sick. I slept till 11:30. My wife gave me the flu, and I wanted to cancel this, but I knew if I canceled it, it would look like I was running from the heat. Like this here, crying Day will never beat Michigan. And I didn't want to be the guy that ran from the heat. You got to come face the music. I ran my mouth all week. I've ran my mouth all year. And you got to stand in the paint, man. Our boys let us down. It's their day. And if you guys want to come in and say that, that's fine. If you want to be nasty, not so much. Mika says Burke should have gotten his head around and he would have had an interception. That is the pass interference she's talking about. That was the tailback option where he threw the ball, got called for a pass interference. We'll see better on the all 22. I think what happened there was he got caught slipping and had to turn around and run full speed to get in position and just couldn't quite get it around in time. I think that's what happened, but I couldn't tell for sure. But he very rarely plays the ball in situations. He's always got his head turned the wrong way to me. Ryan says, I feel like this even if he wins a natty. I did not see your first comment, Ryan. I'm guessing you're saying you feel like he should be gone even if he wins a natty. R. Smith says, no, hitter. Day must go. No, please keep him. Michigan fan. Okay, so they want him to stay, and I don't blame you. Like, if I was a Michigan fan during the John Cooper era, I certainly would have wanted Ohio State to keep John Cooper. They kept him for 13 years, and they kept him for 13 years because he recruited well, because he won a lot of regular season games, because the program was stable and winning. And we are currently in that same situation right now with people making the same arguments about Ryan Day. I just want you guys to recognize that. This is the same exact arguments to keep Ryan Day. Who are you going to get? Well, who'd they go get? They went out and got somebody none of us had ever heard of, unless you were from Youngstown. The answer to who you're going to get is not, let's look at the 5 top coaches in college football and say, well, I would like him, but I don't really like him, and he's not going to come. He's not leaving Oregon. And that's not how you hire a new head coach. If you want a list, I could give you one. The next up-and-comer is who you're looking for. You're looking for the next Kurt Signetti, the next Mike Elko. That's who you're looking for. Rhett Lashley at SMU. Like, you're looking for a guy like that. The who you're going to get question, I'll not hear any of it. I'll put together a list of who you're going to get. And the answer is you interview people and you see who you want. Who's a good fit for you? Who's got a good track record? That's the who you're going to get. Sorry, guys. Had to fire off a text to my guy. I think we got somebody joining us in a few. Duck fan down south says that did not look like the same team that came to Eugene in October. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Not the same team at all. And that's Brian Day's problem. It's a Michigan problem. A TCU fan says, fire loser day, time for a change. I'm guessing you're a Buckeye and TCU fan. Ducks about to dismantle Washington. And that game is pretty inconsequential, isn't it? Fox Body Blues, thanks so much for the super chat, buddy. The excuse is they kept trying to run it up the middle over and over against the best players. It was a really bad idea. They got some behemoths in the middle of that defense, and they were playing really good. Mika says Chip absolutely sucked today. He was terrible. Queen D says this team is not worthy of the playoffs. What a joke. This team still has a better resume than, almost anybody, having beaten top 5 teams. They're one of just 3 teams that have beaten multiple top 25 teams, with Georgia and Oregon being the only other 2 teams in this playoff field that have beaten multiple top 25 teams. They absolutely deserve the playoffs. No doubt about that. Question is, what can they do in the playoffs? As Miles McGann says, bye Ryan. My guy Troy says it looked like one of their coaches threw a punch or hit someone with a clipboard on that play we were talking about. William De Silva says the Bucks and the Ducks, that's a duck eye right there, says we might see each other in the playoffs. We might. I was really looking forward to that rematch. We talked about it all week as if it was just a foregone conclusion that Ohio State would win this game, which is kind of what you're supposed to do when you're a 23-point favorite at home. Trucker 232 says Ohio is soft. And again, I just obviously I get that that's your refrain and your knee-jerk reaction, but did you watch the game? Like if you watched that game and you came out of there thinking that Ohio State lost that game because the players on the field were soft, I question your knowledge of football. That's just not what we were watching there, buddy. Like, I know that that's your refrain and you want to talk smack and whatever. And like, props to you. Your dudes won the game, but it's not because Ohio State was soft. Y'all are still in the playoffs, so at least the season's still worth fighting for. I mean, absolutely it is, for sure. For sure. But you know that there's a lot of folks who definitely cared more about this game right here than winning a national championship. And we talked about it last week. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. And it was about 50-50 at the beginning of the year. But as the season rolled on, it became more and more skewed towards many more people wanted to beat Michigan than win the national championship. Because you just can't tolerate losing 4 in a row. The thought of losing 4 in a row, which still hasn't set in to me yet, the thought of it was just too much to bear. Because it's not just that, but you also had the year that you didn't play in 2020. And now it's been, 5 calendar years since you've seen that happen, which is just unimaginable after the previous 2 decades that we would be back here at some point. Dan says Elko is Bjork's guy. He certainly is, but things are going great at A&M and they're paying him a whole lot of money. BC says closing your eyes and pointing to the play sheet would have been better than Chip Kelly today. Miles says someone make a GoFundMe for Day's buyout. I don't think anybody gives a damn about what that buyout is. If Ross wants him gone, he's going to be out. And we'll see what happens in these playoffs, man. But despicable. Steve says they said that the field judge was knocked down on that little skirmish on the sideline, but I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the flag on them. And Rolling Coconut adds, painful, but let's not abandon our Buckeyes. And that's for sure. There's no doubt when we decide or find out who's that opponent in the playoffs, we're all going to be rip roaring, ready to go. Tough pill to swallow. It'll take a while to get over this one. There's no doubt. And, again, the clock just reset another year of having to listen to them chirp. David was also booked for Indy, just canceled. Playoffs. Jim Mora returns. Yeah. And we miss Indy. So all around Indy. Alan Saunders says, was Will Howard concussed after that big hit? If so, he should not be in there for many reasons. I thought he was certainly concussed. The way he was down on the ground for so long made it seem like he was concussed. And you've got some people who were there telling me that he was wobbly and that the doctors were telling him not to go in and they took his helmet. So I don't know. Was he not? I don't think we'll ever know the real reason or the real truth behind that. He certainly didn't play a good game, but he was not playing good before that. And he didn't play good after that. Cash Knife said, Gus Johnson needs to stop bringing up Carnell Tate's mom after every catch he makes. It's ridiculous. I agree. You know what else I can't stand is we are now in game 12. Game 12. Caleb Downs is a Buckeye. Quinshon Judkins is a Buckeye. Over on Michigan's team, Jayshon Barham plays for them. Can we stop every time somebody makes a play immediately saying the Ole Miss transfer, the Alabama transfer, the Maryland transfer? Like, it's really obnoxious to me. that they are bringing this up still. Like, that was a year ago that they played or were involved in that program. They've been with their current team since January. Like, why do we got to keep bringing that up at this point? That's a Buckeye. That's a Wolverine. It's obnoxious. I think it's lazy. Thomas Ridley says, at the end of the day, the coaches blew this game, even if they allowed him back into the game. They did. They blew the game on every level. Though I will say, defensively, a pretty damn good game. There was not a lot of pressure. I don't think you needed a lot of pressure. Captain Hilt says, does OSU now travel in round one? It looks to me like probably you end up landing at around, I'll pull it back up here. This is the committee rank. Oh, sorry, buddy. Here's the committee rank. You're going to be around 7 or 8. I think Georgia's the cutoff line. Are you in front of them or behind them? And I think it's a home game. I think you're still going to get a home game. If so, that's going to be so awesome, right? Like, I think that'll get everybody's juices flowing, make us forget about this a little bit. Not forget about it, but feel a little better about it. At least enough that we won't be talking about it until, we'll be in on the playoffs. Whatever happens with that, however that ends, then we'll reset and go back into, all right, let's evaluate the whole season. But until we get there, and gosh, if you had the Big Ten championship, you'd be playing again next week. Now we're not playing for a while. Arkbuck says, bringing up the murdered mother every damn time is just crazy. Just stop it, Gus. Damn. No, you're right. I mean, it's a very sensitive topic, and we've heard Ryan Day talk about Carnell not really liking to talk about it. They did a nice piece on the Big Ten Network, but he seems to not, I don't know, like, everybody's different. I don't think I would want that talked about every time I was playing football, every time I made a play. Bob Larson says, I was so looking forward to seeing my Ducks play Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. Oregon versus Penn State doesn't have the same feel. So you're right, Bob, but I'll tell you what, that's an interesting matchup. It'll be really interesting to see what Penn State has, right? To see if they can rebound and play another good team, maybe a little better than they played Ohio State, which was a pretty close game, but close on the scoreboard, didn't really feel close on the field. I don't think they're that good. Brandingo says, I've defended Day since day one. If he doesn't win the Natty, he has to be fired. So there was a lot of folks at the beginning of the year saying, all right, if he loses to Michigan, he needs to at least make it to the national championship game, or he's got to go. Like, that was, a lot of people had that kind of, that's the cutoff. It's too demanding to say you've got to win the Natty because, it takes a lot of luck and things to go your way to win the Natty, but you got to at least get to the game. Jaro Happiness, how far does OSU drop after this loss? I'm thinking 7 or 8, right around there. Queen D says only a Natty can save Day's job. Time to move on. No Natty, no Day. Like, I understand that a lot of us might feel that way, but we got to factor in, how do the people making the decision feel? And do you really think that an AD coming in year one wants to fire a coach who just made the playoffs and potentially won a game in the playoffs? or won 2 games and moved to the semifinals. Like that might feel quite silly on his part. He might not want to do that in year 1. Troy says, us fans may be juiced for a home game, but seeing how they played today in the cold might not matter. Tom says, in this ugly loss, I still have to say that we held our opponent to 13 points. They did a hell of a job defensively. I was really happy with the defensive effort. I thought that you had guys like Cody, Caleb Downs, Arvell playing great. Ty Leak played a hell of a game. I thought Ty Hamilton played a pretty good game. You didn't really have a whole lot of just 16 passing attempts, so there wasn't really a ton of opportunity to put any heat on Davis Warren. You held the guy to 62 yards. I mean, he was actually kind of clutch in a couple situations late, which was surprising. Stephanie, Buckeye OG number 1, how you doing? I know this loss doesn't really matter to some extent because we now get longer to prepare for the playoffs, but I just never want to lose to them. Oregon is getting there too. Definitely never want to lose to them. David says, if Day gets fired, which coaches do we keep on staff? Boy, I don't want Hartline or Laurinaitis going anywhere. That's for sure. And we are in the second quarter of the Iron Bowl. Alabama up 7-3. Notre Dame and USC with a minute 50 left before halftime, tied at 7. So looks like that one's going to be the banger we thought it might be. Penn State whooping on Maryland. And Miami up just 21-14 now before with 2 minutes left before half over Syracuse. Can Kyle McCord beat Miami? Can USC beat Notre Dame? If those two happen, the Bucks aren't dropping far at all. Arcbuck really likes the staff, except for Day and Kelly. Dago, what's up, buddy? Steve says Day will not get fired. Dave says blank check for Mike Vrabel or Urban Meyer. Yeah, I'm done with the Urban experiment. Mike Vrabel was like my idol. I would not be against that whatsoever. If I could make that trade, I would have made it yesterday or 5 years ago, either one. My man Dago says today was quite depressing. Indeed, it was. I still can't believe this. Mika, yes, I did get your email. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dago says the last 2 possessions were pitiful. Indeed, they were. Mitchell Pates says, Juck, if you seriously say that Day doesn't need fired, then you are now just as bad as the beat writers. Shame on you, bro. Mitchell, I didn't say that. I said I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction today, immediately after the game, but I'm with you. I feel you. Like, that's what I'm saying right now. Yes, I don't want him here anymore. I think look, I just went through that everything is going to be just fine with the talent. Yeah, you'll lose some guys that'll transfer out. Yes, you'll lose some guys in the class if you were to let them go. That's going to happen. But the season's not over yet, number one. What if he goes on to win a national championship, right? We look pretty stupid calling for someone to be fired that just won the national championship, right? So to really dig in and dig your heels in on that right now, not the right thing to do. And I also have consistently debunked for the last 6 weeks and kind of tried to get this message across to people who have the who you going to get that's better argument, that you don't know who you're going to get because the best two new coaches in college football right now are Kurt Cignetti and Mike Elko. But last year, if you said who you're going to get, and I told you, well, Kurt Cignetti at JMU is probably up for a new job, and Mike Elko at Duke, you would have laughed in my face. So right now, when I tell you Rhett Lashley is a really good looking candidate that I think I'd like to see interviewed, a lot of people might laugh in my face right now. So the who you're going to get argument is garbage. The you're going to lose all the talent off the team to the transfer portal is garbage. You're going to lose the entire class of 2025 is garbage. And we've just seen that play out right in front of our face with Kalen DeBoer. And my point is, yeah, I'm with you. But to really dig my heels in and start yelling and screaming that they need to fire him right now before the season's over, I mean, I just think that would maybe be probably not the right thing to start yelling about right now, an hour after the game. The season isn't over. They're going to have a home game in the playoffs. I can't stand the guy, if you want to know the truth. I don't think he backs up the fans. I don't think he gets us. I can't stand him. David says, I love Vrabel as coach. I just don't want to go back to 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Jar of Happiness says, Vrabel doesn't like recruiting. You're damn right. Vrabel cannot stand recruiting. Bob says, I did say before the season that Chip Kelly wouldn't be the offensive savant that the Buckeyes had hoped for. Y'all didn't listen to me. Sigh. Well, Bob, we have always, like it's wishful thinking, right? You always want to hope for the best. And you go back to Chip has been able to revolutionize an offense, reinvent himself in a different way and do really well. The running game at UCLA was excellent. And we were hoping that he would bring that running game into Ohio State. And he has added a whole lot of great stuff to this offense. We look at some of the plays and there is definitely a much better feel to this offense. Problem is we didn't see it today at all. Like none of it. The decision-making was not good. And there's a big difference between having a really cool looking offense in decision-making of when you're going to do this and when you're going to do that. Tempo worked today. What did we see? We saw tempo right before the half and it was great. And then it was totally abandoned. And it's things like that, man, little decisions like that you're like, all right, how about you're backed up 3rd and 8, you're going to run the ball and just settle for punts, like things like this. Disdained Rogue says that's why I'm not saying that yet. It's not over. We could still win a natty. David was very happy that Jack Sawyer ripped the flag that they were attempting to plant. And Dan brings up kind of my point here. He's seen the updated odds. They still have the 3rd best odds to win the national championship. There aren't any great teams this year. Ohio State and Oregon were the best teams heading into today. And we got to ask ourselves, how good is your best? If Ohio State plays their best game against anybody in the country, I believe they can win. Now it's on the coaching staff and the players to make sure that happens in the playoffs. And if it does, and if they can make it through that gauntlet, everybody who wants Ryan Day fired might feel a little differently. How would you feel if they made it to the national championship game and they lost in the national championship game like they lost at Oregon at the end of the game? Obviously, you're not going to fire the coach who just made it to the national championship game for the 2nd time in his career. The guy's an accomplished coach. I think Ohio State can do better. I'd be willing to roll the dice because I'm not here for someone who loses to the rival 4 years in a row. Like, I'm just not with it, man. I'm not with it. His record against bumpkins of the Big Ten is perfect, but people point to when they knock Urban, like, the Iowa game, the Purdue game, the Michigan State game. In this day and age, you can have one of those shitty games in a year and lose to one of those teams. I want a guy who wins the big ones, not a guy who's an ace against the crappy teams. But there's no guarantee that you get a guy who's even that good, right? That's the hang up people have. Who you going to get? And there's always going to be fear when you jump off the ledge into that. It's always going to be somewhat risky every time. But you got to ask yourself, how much enjoyment are you getting out of the team right now or the last 4 years when you can't cash in, you can't win the big one? Would you take rooting for a team that's maybe like, I don't know, LSU, a team that pops up and has won 3 national championships since 2000, but also has seasons where, they're not really good at all? Like, would you rather be a team like that, or would you rather be a team that wins 10 or 11 games every year, loses to their rival under Ryan Day, and then gets bounced out of the playoffs? Or, we look at the way this season's going to end. Last year, the season ended with a loss to Michigan, and the most despicable effort I've ever seen from a coaching staff in my life against Missouri. And now this year, you got the loss to Michigan. If they get bounced out in the first round of the playoffs, wow, it's going to get ugly. Arkbuck says, Chuck, when you say you can't stand him, was that about Day? Yes, personally, just I'm just saying, like, I don't like him. You know what I mean? Like, I root for him. He's our coach. But no, he's not my kind of guy at all. And he's a horrible tipper. You know what I'm saying? I judge people by that. It's just me. Sorry. If you make $10 million a year and you tip people like shit, I don't like you. That's just what it is. He's a Northeasterner, man. That guy's not like us. Chip Kelly's not like us. He doesn't get this game. He doesn't get this rivalry. He could say all he wants that he gets Ohio State. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it at all. And he just lost us the game 4 years in a row. No, I don't like him. But at the same time, I'm trying to think of what is the best option and the best way to go for the program. And firing him on the tarmac heading out of the stadium, I don't think is the best thing to do, because they could still turn it all around. And of course, I'm rooting for him to turn it all around. I know there's a lot of people who right now at this point probably are feeling like, I'd rather see them get bounced out of the first round of the playoffs, and let's just let this thing end right now. But it's not often you get an opportunity like this where everybody else all the other good teams are not, nobody's popping up and just excellent. So you still got a chance, and you got a bunch of great players. I asked Chris on Friday, what do we think about this senior class if they were to lose? If they were to lose this game, this senior class was the best recruiting class in Ohio State history. Now, they don't have Quinn Ewers, who came in with them, but 7 5-stars, guys. You got 3 this year. 3. This is an amazing class in the class of 2025. You got 4 if you count Riley Petterjohn. I usually go by the 24/7 composite. He's not a 5-star in the 24/7 composite, but he is with rivals. So usually if somebody gets it from one of the services, you count them. So let's call Riley a 5-star. And we'll say you got 4 5-stars in the class of 2025. The class of 2021 had 7 5-stars. And this class has just lost their 4th straight game to the team up north. They will end their career with no gold pants, what an incredible disappointment. I feel bad for them. But at the same time, they had their opportunity. I feel bad for all these guys, man. Today, I feel like their coaches let them down. I feel like for the most part, they played really well. I feel like the coaches let them down today. And again, that's just my first watch. And in the first watch, I'm writing down notes for the show, like tons of notes. So I miss some things. And then on the second watch, I always catch some things. But to me, it felt like the players got let down by their coaching staff today. That's the way it felt. Richie doesn't agree with me. Richie says Will Howard let him down more than anyone by a mile. Will made some bonehead Will plays. Thomas says, no, Juck, those OSU 5 stars lost to Michigan 3 and 4 stars. There's no argument there, buddy. They did. Oh, man, this is great. This is a great comment. Art Buck says, it's ironic that Ryan Day is the cause of my mental health issues. Ryan Day, of course, is a big mental health advocate. The Ryan and Nina Day Foundation promotes mental health. It's a big push amongst the team, and I love that about Ryan Day. That's something that I really like, that he's embraced that, helped a lot of these guys out, helped Travion out. Ryan Day has done a lot of good things for Ohio State. Just not my kind of guy. Dan says, Juck, you have the best podcast chat. The other podcasts are fanboys and delusional. I'm happy that I draw in the podcast chat people who, I don't know, think like me. I don't think I'm a fanboy or delusional. I think I'm very realistic when it comes to Ohio State, when it comes to the entire landscape of college football. And I always tell the truth. I don't ever beat around the bush. I don't ever sugarcoat anything. I don't have an agenda. This is my hobby. I do it for fun to interact with you guys. And I can understand, man. There's some people whose livelihood is connected to access with the program, and talking out of turn can sometimes screw with your money. You know what I mean? So I get it. I think it's a bad system that has it set up like that. It shouldn't be like that, but that's what it is. What's up, Richie? Good to see you, buddy. Eric says, I wish Day would just come on in the post-game presser and say, I let my team down, didn't put him in the position to win, etc. More accountability instead of talking about the win. I didn't even bring that up, bro. The dude said something about the wind today, and I just about smashed my iPad. The wind? I think the question was something about the run game. And he's it was windy. I'll have to re-see it. I was so mad. T-Star. You can go. Steph says, I know you need to spread the ball around, but it's just criminal that JJ doesn't have over 1,000 yards. He should easily have 1,200 to 1,400 easily. Michigan couldn't cover him. He came in today with 899 yards. I think, and I think most of you think, that JJ is the best wide receiver in college football, one of the best offensive weapons in college football. This is something that has irritated me the entire season, because what I know is that they recognized this early on enough that they were willing to start a freshman and essentially make him the number one wide receiver. And I know that Emeka is a senior, and Emeka is that dude, and he's awesome. He's a great guy. I had the number in my head. You've got to get this guy 6 targets minimum. JJ needs 6 targets every game. They missed that mark a couple times. I think that's malpractice. I think he's that much better than everybody else on the field, in the secondary guarding him, or Carnell Tate or Emeka Egbuka. And I think that's been a big mistake all year. You absolutely had to have him more involved today. You didn't. That was a failure. But I'm with you. I think it's an absolute failure that he doesn't have over 1,000 yards. Now, with the completed regular season, I'm with you. Not good enough. Arkbuck says Day could have had Cam Ward. Well, you're going to kick up a big argument with that one, buddy. Billy is surprised to see I'm still live. My voice is starting to hurt me, but about a half an hour ago, Chris texted me and said, "Hey, you want me to pop in?" And I said, "Yeah." He's not coming. So I don't know. I was trying to hold out for him, but what are we going to do? Oregon can play Penn State. Let the Buckeyes rest and go play in Indiana. The Buckeyes will prep for the playoffs. In life, you lose some, you win some. Sure. Tom says our players deserve much better from our coaches. And yes, we will lose recruits if they're not willing to exploit our players downfield. Ark Buck, talking about Cam Ward again, says, what would this team do with Cam Ward? Howard's a great kid, but not a top-level talent. Cam Ward's more talented. There's no doubt. I don't think Ryan Day, and I think he knew this right off the rip, I don't think he does good with a guy who freelances a lot. And Cam Ward freelances. That's how he makes a lot of those amazing plays, and that's how dude, I'm just like, I'm watching this. The TV's over here. Got the 4-box. Got the games on. Just flash to the beginning of this game with Sharon Moore bouncing around. And it's going to take a while for this to sink in. It really is. Like, I'm in a state of shock here. And Brad says, just face it. They can't win big games. Always folds under the pressure. Been a Bucks fan all my life. I think a lot of people are coming to that realization or that determination. I've pushed back on that. You know what I mean? I've pushed back on it. But at some point, it just is what it is. At some point, it is what it is. All right, my friends. I guess Katie is tied up. So tomorrow, I am going to do a show with our buddy Dylan Davis. Dylan, I think he's 36 or 37. Been a Bucks fan all his life, like many of us in the chat here. And he was at the press conference. I heard Dylan's question to Ryan Day in the press conference, and Dylan's tone in his voice. First off, he made sure to say in his question, now that you've lost the game 4 times in a row, but the tone in Dylan's voice, you could tell it was a Bucks fan. I'll play it tomorrow on the show. It was pretty funny. It was, he was irritated, no doubt. Day did not answer the question. He spun it. But Dylan's probably going to want to vent. So Dylan and I will vent again tomorrow about this. And then we'll slowly all pick up the pieces and see how we're going to move forward. Because, again, the season is not over. All the goals are not any longer out in front of you. You've lost the opportunity to win goal 1 and goal 2. Winning the rivalry game and the Big Ten championship are out the window. There's one goal left. One goal. That's where we're at. So check us out tomorrow. Me and Dylan will be back here tomorrow at about 11, I'm guessing. And I will pop it up live. If you guys want to ask Dylan any questions, feel free. So we'll do that live right around tomorrow. And hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. I will talk to you then. Thanks for joining me. Chuck and Bucks out.